The evening air was cold enough to see your breath, and the warm glow from the bakery window seemed to push against the gathering dusk. Inside, amidst the scent of cinnamon and rising dough, a pair of watchful eyes followed a small, darting shadow. The boy's hand, quick as a sparrow, snatched a loaf of crusty rye from the lower shelf and tucked it beneath his threadbare jacket. He turned, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs, and came face to face with the owner. The man didn't shout. He didn't reach for the phone. He simply looked at the boy, his expression unreadable, and said, "I saw that." This was Leo's Bakery. Miller's Rise, the sign read, a family name and a family dream. For 30 years, Leo had measured flour and kindness in equal parts, believing a community was built on full stomachs and trust. He was a man of steady hands and a quiet faith, who left the closed sign turned a little late on cold nights. But theft, however small, was a crack in the foundation of his trust. His first instinct was disappointment, a sharp pang that this child, who couldn't be more than 10, had chosen to steal from him. The boy, named Sam, froze. His eyes, wide and the color of a stormy sky, held a fear so profound it was beyond panic. It was the quiet terror of a cornered thing. He didn't run. He just stood there, the outline of the loaf visible under his thin sweater, as if all the fight had drained out of him at being caught. "That's stealing, son," Leo said, his voice low. He moved slowly from behind the counter, not to threaten, but to block the door. The last of the day's customers had left, and it was just the two of them in the warm, bread-scented silence. "I'm sorry," Sam whispered, the words barely audible. He didn't offer the bread back. His grip on it seemed to tighten. "Sorry doesn't put it back on the shelf," Leo said, but the anger he expected to feel didn't come. Instead, he noticed the details. The shoes, cracked and too large, the jacket, zipper broken, clutched closed with a small hand, the careful, hollow look in the boy's cheeks. This wasn't the defiance of a troublemaker. This was the desperation of something else. "Why?" Leo asked, the single word softer now. "Why would you do that? You could have asked. I give day-olds to anyone who needs them." Sam's lower lip trembled. He looked at the floor, at the flour-dusted tiles. "I was scared to ask," he mumbled. "Scared of me?" A slow shake of the head. "Scared you'd say no, and then she'd know I tried and failed." Leo felt the first twist in the story, a gentle pull away from a simple case of theft. She? Who's she? Sam remained silent, a fortress of childish shame. Leo sighed, the sound heavy in the quiet shop. He walked over to the small bistro table by the window, the one where old Mr. Hendricks did his crossword every afternoon. He pulled out a chair. "Sit down, please." Hesitantly, Sam shuffled over and sat on the very edge of the chair, the stolen loaf held on his lap like a shield. "I'm not calling the police," Leo said, sitting across from him. "Not yet, but I need to understand. You take something from me, you owe me the truth. That's the trade. A loaf of bread for a story. Fair?" Sam studied him for a long moment, looking for traps, for lies. Seeing only the weary, patient face of the baker, he gave the smallest nod. "It's for my mom," Sam began, his voice gaining a fragile strength. She's not getting out of bed much. She says she's just tired, but she's always tired. She used to work at the laundromat, but she got too weak." He swallowed hard. "I make her tea. I try to tidy up. But today she said she wasn't hungry for dinner. We had some crackers left, but that was all. She needs to eat. The doctor said she needs to keep her strength up." He said the word doctor with a solemn importance. "I saw the bread. It's her favorite, the crusty kind. I thought if she smelled it, if she had just one slice with a little butter, it might make her want to get up. It might make her better." The confession hung in the air between them, more tangible than the steam from the ovens. Leo felt his own heart clench. The theft wasn't for a thrill or for himself. It was an act of love, a misguided, desperate prayer offered in the form of stolen rye. "Where's your dad?" Leo asked gently. "Gone," a simple, devastating word. "A long time ago." Leo looked out the window at the darkening street. His own daughter, grown and living in another city, had never known a day of want. He'd made sure of it. The thought of her being this small, this scared, trying to be the parent, it broke something open inside him. "You should have asked, Sam," Leo repeated, but the meaning had changed entirely. It was no longer an accusation. It was a lesson, wrapped in regret. There's never any shame in asking for help, not ever. He stood up. "Wait here." Sam watched, bewildered, as Leo moved behind the counter. He didn't grab a bag for the single loaf. Instead, he took a large, fresh paper sack and began to fill it. He selected a still warm rye loaf, the one Sam had chosen, then a soft milk bread, easy on the stomach, a couple of hearty rolls, 2 buttery croissants, a container of soup from the fridge he made for his own lunch, a wedge of cheese, and a handful of pastries dusted with sugar. He brought the overflowing bag to the table and set it down with a soft thud. "This," Leo said, his voice thick with an emotion he couldn't name, "is for asking." Sam stared at the bag, then up at Leo, his eyes shimmering. I don't have any money." "This isn't about money," Leo said. "This is about a boy who loves his mom. The bread you took is part of it, but the rest is for your courage to tell me the truth. That's the trade." He then did something he hadn't planned. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a simple business card. On the back, he wrote his personal cell number. "You take this. You tell your mom that Leo from the bakery says hello. If she needs bread or soup, or if you just need someone to check in, you call this number. No questions asked, no payment needed. You have my word." Sam took the card as if it were made of glass. He carefully put it in his pocket. Then he did something that undid Leo completely. He stood up, walked around the table, and wrapped his thin arms around Leo's middle in a tight, wordless hug. It lasted only a second before the boy shyly stepped back, picking up the heavy paper sack. "Thank you," Sam whispered, the storm in his eyes clearing to a vulnerable, hopeful blue. "You're welcome, Sam. Now get that home. And tomorrow, you come back here after school. I might need help sweeping up some flour. It pays in sandwiches and stories. Deal?" A real small smile touched Sam's face. "Deal." Leo watched him go, the small boy carrying the large bag, disappearing into the twilight. He locked the door and turned the sign to closed, but his work wasn't done. He picked up the phone. He knew Mrs. Alvarez, who ran the neighborhood outreach at the church. He knew Dr. Evans, the kind-eyed GP with a practice 3 blocks over. The boy had given him the why, and now it was his turn to answer with more than just bread. The next day, true to his word, Sam returned, and the day after that, he swept flour with solemn dedication. Leo learned more. His mom's name was Clara, the illness was a long and exhausting battle, and their small apartment was on the 3rd floor of the old brick building on Elm Street. With Sam's permission, a gentle network of kindness began to weave itself around them. Mrs. Alvarez arranged for a weekly grocery delivery. Dr. Evans, after a visit arranged by Leo, adjusted Clara's medication and connected her with a support group. It wasn't a grand single miracle, but a series of small ones, like bread rising, slow and sure. Weeks later, on a bright Saturday morning, the bell over Leo's door chimed. A woman, pale but with a light in her eyes that hadn't been there before, stood holding Sam's hand. Clara. She walked up to the counter where Leo was stacking morning buns. "Leo?" she asked, her voice soft. "That's me," he smiled. She reached out and took his both flour-dusted hands in hers. Her eyes welled up, but she was smiling. "My son told me you're the man who saved us with a bag of bread and a phone number. I had to come and thank you, to see the face of the angel who heard us." Leo shook his head, his own throat tight. "No angels here, Clara. Just a baker who was taught a very important lesson by a very brave boy. He showed me that sometimes what looks like a wrong action is just a heart trying to find its way in the dark. I just turned on a light." From that day on, Sam wasn't just the boy who came to sweep. They were family. Clara regained her strength, eventually helping part-time in the bakery, her gentle presence a new warmth in the shop. The story of the stolen bread became their secret history, a reminder that from a single moment of fear and understanding, an entire world of goodness could grow.
And every so often, when Leo sees a child lingering by the bread shelf, he doesn't just see a potential customer. He sees a story waiting to be heard, a need waiting to be met with grace, not judgment. He remembers that the most profound truths are often hidden in the simplest acts, waiting for someone kind enough to listen for the why behind the actions. Sometimes the greatest gifts aren't the ones we give, but the truths we are humble enough to receive. Share this story if it reminded you to look for the why behind the actions of others.